of other meetings to go to today also. Thank y'all for being here and being so timely at 1 o'clock, and we'll try to respect your time and move pretty quick. Or not quick, but hey, that's mine. You don't want that one. and appreciate y'all being here for sure. Appreciate the members of the committee and those out in the audience who are friends of education and certainly interested in it. One thing, someone sent me an email this morning or last night from outside wanting to speak. And just make sure if you have a bill or something that we only allow testimony during the subcommittees, and they can always write a letter like they asked the lady to, and I'd put it in your folder, but she didn't do that. Committee, what to expect? We have on Tuesday we have some time set up for some subcommittee meetings from 12 to 4. We'll probably try to work on those tomorrow. Bills that are dropping are coming in. We'll assign one today and some others to move on, and we'll let you know that just as soon as we can. But I sure appreciate your attendance. We're going to start off with the bill. It's House Bill 957, Speaker Pro Tem Jones. We appreciate you being here and presenting your bill. This is a subject matter I know you've been very passionate about for years, and we share your passion. Thank you.
Am I on?
Yes.
So this bill has 5 parts. None of them really change basic charter school policy. They're primarily, in fact, they are cleanup measures, and I just put them all together. Some of them have sort of built up over the first few years, and I'll go through them. Section 1. It clarifies that, and it only pertains to state charter schools, it clarifies that they are eligible to participate in the state health benefit plan. They do now, and they always have. They also, of course, all of their teachers are public school teachers, and they pay into TRS, the Teachers Retirement System, and they're eligible for that. But from time to time, as we've had a change in administration or a change at DCH, it's been questioned, are you part of the state, can you be a part of the state benefit plan? So this just clarifies it. And if you look on line 26, it's because state charter schools were added and they're under section 31A, whereas originally it was all put under Article 31. And so it just says either Article 31 or 31A, which applies to state charter schools. The Attorney General has continuously affirmed, different Attorney Generals, that they are eligible for it, but this just sort of cleans it up and makes it clear. Section 2 would apply to locally approved and state charter schools. Historically, charter schools in Georgia, the lottery has been done and it has been based on establishing residency at the time of the lottery. Last year, the legislature inadvertently, changed it to where it's at the time of the lottery residency, which is how traditional schools are. If you move, not for a lottery, but if you move into a district like where my children went, Milton High School, when you move there that you're eligible to go to Milton High School. So we added that where you could, we thought we were adding it where it's primarily applies more to locally approved charter schools, that they could determine residency at the time of the lottery. What was inadvertent was it omitted at the time of enrollment. And so, for example, in Fulton County, we have a number of charter schools in South Fulton, North Fulton. All of them are locally approved charter schools. They're all county-wide, so it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if it's at time of enrollment or time of lottery, as long as you live in Fulton County. In Atlanta, though, they tend to have more district lines, and they're trying to target, some of them, a specific population. I'll give you an example why it's important to have that flexibility. Drew Charter School has historically determined enrollment at the time for purposes of participate in the lottery at the time of enrollment. That's how we used to do it prior to this, I think, really error last year in an amendment or a substitute. But in their case, there's a new public housing complex that's being constructed near the school's priority attendance zone, but the families aren't going to move into it until after their lottery. They'll know they're moving in there, but it's not until after their lottery. So they would like to have that flexibility so that they could have the children whose parents want them to participate in the lottery, establish enrollment, not, have it determined at the time of enrollment, not at the time of the lottery. But after this public housing complex is finished, they would like to go back to their old way. It's been an issue, particularly in some areas. The impetus for doing it, what was changed to last year at the time of enrollment, in places, and this is true in Atlanta, where you have rapidly increasing prices and rents, that if you're a middle income or lower income parent or parents and you would like your child to go to that school, you're probably not going to make that move inside the district for the chance of your child being to go there. You want them to be able to participate in the lottery. If they get in, great, you move. If they don't, you don't move. But I find this tends to apply more to locally approved schools, not so much the state charter schools, because they tend to have more commonly have statewide attendance zones. But again, what it is it's correcting an error from last year. The Section 3, when we created state charter schools, the board members' terms were 2 years. It's hard enough to find anybody to serve in a volunteer manner, and so this simply makes them 4-year terms with staggered terms. Section 4, it addresses a couple issues with state charter schools. With charter schools, if you don't perform, you're closed down. If you're closed down, there's some question as to who owns the students' records. So this makes it clear that they are the property of the state charter school, but after the closure, and they have to keep those records for a year, but after the closure, they transfer the records back to the state because these are public students. And then the last provision is something that applies only to virtual schools. Virtual schools have an additional performance measure as compared to all bricks and mortar charter schools. In current law, this performance audit is done in December. The Department of Audits and the State Charter School Commission wants to move it to April of that same school year so that they can incorporate up-to-date academic data. It just delays it by 4 months. So that's the bill, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. 18.
Thank you,
Go ahead,
Chair.
ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say off the bat, it would have been easier for me if these had been separate bills.
Okay, that's fine.
With that, so now let's start with the first one. If I understood you correctly, as it relates to charter schools participating in retirement, if I heard you correctly, you said that they
currently do.
They currently do.
Mm-hmm.
So what I don't understand is if they are currently participating, why are we making an amendment to the law for them to participate?
Okay, so this does not apply. This does not pertain to the retirement system, teachers' retirement system. I just mentioned that as an example of one of the benefits that all public school teachers, whether they work at a locally approved state charter or traditional school, participate. What this does is it clarifies the law with regard to the state health benefit plan. So we do a lot of things oftentimes down here to clarify where there's some ambiguity. It may be customary for us to do that, and that has been the case. It's been customary that teachers that are employed by state charter schools, that they do receive the state health benefit plan.
Okay.
But if you look at the first page, you can probably see why there was some ambiguity in that, because it doesn't refer to 31A. It does refer to public school teachers, but it didn't make that extra leap. It was just an omission in law for, 10 years or however long we've had them. And so this simply makes it clear.
May I follow up?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Supposed to ask me.
If the
Supposed
chairman's...
to ask me, not
I'm
her.
sorry.
If the chairman allows.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am. One
right.
more, and then we'll keep moving around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have questions several because you got like
Oh, yeah.
5 bills in one. So
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
okay.
We'll
And we do-
alternate around.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it's very common to do department, what we call them cleanup bills.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, you'll see it with the IRS. You'll see it where, we'll have bills this thick, and it just is more efficient to put them when you're clarifying.
No, I got you. It
things.
just calls for more questions and.
But it
one
may,
bill.
and it may,
Yeah.
there may be a piece you don't
Okay.
like.
Okay, I think what I'm not clear is, have there been teachers in charter schools that have been denied access to the benefits?
No,
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But we've had, when you've had a change at DCH, and they're looking at the law and they're looking at Article 31, then they've said, well, are they in fact eligible for it? And every time the answer comes back from the Attorney General, yes, they are, and from the State Health Benefit Plan. So this just cleans it up.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay,
Okay, you want to come?
We'll come back to you.
Oh, okay.
That's why I like to move it around a little bit. How about number 9?
That's me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you for the bill. Public charter school teachers are public employees and they're state employees and should be treated as such. And so I thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Number 16. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Pro Tem, for this cleanup bill. And to kind of piggyback off of what Representative Gamble said, there was a charter school in my district. It was newly authorized by Clayton County, and we had a lot of trouble with them getting their health benefit plan. And they were assumed that because they were a charter school, that they were not public school employees. And so there's a lot that goes around, and like she said, whenever administration changes, if it's not clarified in the law, then people begin to have their own interpretation. And then at the end of the day, there was some other things that was going on with the Department of Community Health, but they ended up not having insurance for almost 6 months, and they were employed from the beginning of August, and they didn't get anything to January. So this is very important to make sure that they are treated just like any other traditional school. Thank you.
Number 12. It's over here. Is that? I got you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question on section 4, lines 142, regarding that nothing in the subsections precludes the use of a third-party vendor to create and maintain the student records. My only concern with that is if potentially adding language that would also ensure that the third-party entity would not be able to sell student data. That is something commonly that happens when you do have third-party vendors, unless it's specifically contracted through their services as a vendor. But I would rather have that ensured in law that third-party would not be able to sell our student data.
I'd like to ask Legislative Michael, would that already be current law as a student record? What number are you? 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, as a matter of federal law, you could not transmit student records without an express guarantee on what are the controls that apply to the student records, how they can be handled, what can be done with them, and actually how they have to be returned.
So the federal law does do a lot of student privacy protection, both K through 12 and higher ed. But I would still feel more comfortable that we ensure that, because we are in the language allowing third-party vendors to service their records, to also say, as a matter of state law, we would want to also ensure that third-party vendors not be able to sell or the student data. Just, do you have any, I guess,
I mean,
understanding of that?
I would be, I'm amenable, but I would defer to legislative counsel if is there a way to add a sentence or something, or that, if it does no harm and it clarifies it so that someone who's just reading it, you want to make it perfectly clear. I wouldn't want someone who doesn't know federal law to think otherwise.
Right,
Or legislative council.
We can certainly, we can
Could you
attempt
come
to
up
address
with
that, yes.
a sentence for an amendment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to you in just a little bit. Representative Carter.
Thank you, sir.
So 18. Okay.
18. Speaker Pro Tem. This will be my last question on this. Okay, on the section, I think is 2, where, and since this is cleanup, and I think if I heard you correctly, inadvertently, the enrollment, the acceptance in the charter school or application at the enrollment, and we wanted to change it to application, either application time or enrollment for residency. So my concern would be, since we're cleaning it up, I think it would be more prudent to, and I understand what you're saying about the Drew area, and I think Drew could deal with that without us codifying it.
They actually could not.
Okay, so my concern is with the proof of residency, I think being fair to parents to have access to a charter school in their community
Yeah.
should be for the parents in that community. If we allow it to continue, that a person who does not live within that charter area could apply to the school, not live there, get accepted, then possibly move there. But then there are students who actually live currently in that district who may not have been accepted because all the slots were filled because people who didn't live there were moved in. And just from my experience with Drew, there are a lot of parents who are not able to get their children in the school that live there.
So currently, they would not like the way current law is then.
Right.
They
That's why I
would-
say since we're cleaning it
They
up.
would want to add this. I would not be in favor of omitting the option for those that are, most of these are locally approved. And we have, so that is a concern. And I do, meaning I would want to give them that opportunity to be set up where it's a time of lottery, which is how the current law is. And that's what I think you're a proponent of. But by allowing it at the time of enrollment, it was brought to my attention by a number of charter schools that most charter schools don't have these tight little attendance zones. You tend to have that in more densely populated areas like Atlanta. And, but in their charter, some of them have diversity benchmarks. If it is an area of rapidly rising rents and rapidly rising prices, they literally, in some cases, can't meet their low-income benchmarks. And so they might like to have that option of allowing it to be at time of enrollment so that they could encourage some folks to move into the area that would help them meet their diversity. But again, to me, this is more of a local control issue. I'm not going to decide what City of Atlanta approves or wants their school board in terms of their charter schools. They're the ones who approve these charters, not us. And so I'm going to leave it to them to best fit. If you have an area where you're trying to particularly serve refugees, but some of the refugees are being priced out of the area for rents, then you might want the option of determining residency at time of enrollment.
Chairman, Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
will you entertain another question, even though I said that was my last?
Sure, I'm happy to.
So, you're further proving my concern. If they're trying to meet their low-income criteria.
Right?
And if the families are already priced out of the area,
Mm-hmm.
they're less likely to be able to move in once they're enrolled because they've been priced out of the market.
If you have a declining low-income population and you're in your charter, by allowing residency to be determined at the time of enrollment, a middle or lower income parent would be more inclined, if they're really keen on going to that, sending their child to that school, to take the risk of, enter the lottery. If you get in, then you move. It would be like if you wanted to be in the Grady High School district. A parent would be more disinclined to move into the Grady High School district if they didn't know that by moving there the kid would get in. This mirrors more that. I think it would encourage it. But again, it's going to depend on the circumstances of where they're located and what's happening in that area.
Thank you. Representative Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this bill. And Drew Charter is in my district, so I really appreciate your work on this. And did they come to you for this bill?
Different groups. I mean,
Okay.
it's really I've
Purpose
sort of
built
been
or-
adding it up for a few years
Okay.
and just kind of waiting to. And really, the impetus was that in the enrollment last year when I learned this year, I was like, what? I didn't know that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then some charter schools did express concern because it was quite a departure from how it had been and how they had set their charters.
Right. So this basically would give Atlanta Public Schools, which governs Drew Charter, the flexibility for
Right.
Drew Charter to decide whether on enrollment or to establish proof of residency either at the time of application or enrollment.
That's right.
This gives them that flexibility. So while this new complex is built, they're going to allow eligibility upon application because some of these people haven't moved in. But then they internally can change it
That's right.
back to time of enrollment
That's
once that complex is complete and all the residents have
That's
moved
right.
in.
Mhm.
So the
We
state's
won't do
giving
it.
them, the
The
flexibility.
flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Belton, is that 26?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Madam Pro Tem, for bringing this very important legislation up. Isn't it true that most people who move around anywhere in America move to a place because they want their kids to go to a certain school? Isn't that true, Madam Speaker?
If the gentleman so speaks.
May I follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So isn't it true that, what you're basically doing is you're trying to help the parent make a good decision by allowing them, but they're not going to move to a place if they're not going to get that kid in that school. But if you had know that they would be getting in that school, if you moved there, then they would make that big decision.
Yeah, and I would just add the caveat, it's really to give the schools that, their charters are approved to serve a community. This is not relevant in where I live because Fulton County, regardless of whether you live in South Fulton or North Fulton, you can apply for any charter school in Fulton County. That's true, and I think Gwinnett only has one locally approved charter school. I believe that's right. I could be wrong. That is for more gifted children, and it's anywhere in the county. That's not uncommon, really, to have it countywide. But in areas where you have a very diverse city, densely populated, you're trying to serve different areas. Some you want it to be very much a neighborhood school, as the representative was mentioning. Well, then you would choose solely at time of lottery. Yes, at time of lottery. But if you find yourself in an area where the community you were the children that you were trying to serve and target are moving away, or the area is changing, then you might choose the other. But it would be a local decision in that case.
Madam Speaker, you know this stuff. This is very great. One last question. Representative Evans.
Right, and I just wanted to clarify, actually, for Chairman Belton, that in this community, where Drew Charter's been around for 20 years now, and it is a lottery program, that there is a formula to make sure underserved students are a certain key percentage. I don't have that in my head, but they're a very large percentage. So anyhow, people actually have moved to this neighborhood with no guarantee that their child would be going to this school. And what's happened is it's like a rising tide lifts all boats. The neighborhood public schools that are not lottery are continuing to improve. So this is important to give them this flexibility, because they have to broaden in order to meet their formula for underserved, they have to have a wider geographic area, or, it just gives them flexibility. Or like she said, with this new complex being built, people can move in with the certainty that they can be eligible for the lottery.
Thank you, ma'am. Committee, what we're going to do, we're just hold this bill in our arms for a little while to let Legislative Council come up with the appropriate amendment. We'll need to rush him. So you're free to go. Okay. We'll take care of it.
Okay. And do you have that?
He's working on it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and thank you.
And we'll be just fine. And what we're going to do now, in the meantime, is this. We're going to hear from SREB. We have Stephen Pruitt. And Stephen, you come very highly recommended by our trustee, Miss Courtney, right here. And you got a lot to live up to.
Well, I will do my best. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Courtney, and the rest of the committee for inviting Southern Regional Education Board to be with you today. We are excited to be here. It's always great to be here. I spent 40 of my 50 years here in Georgia. Actually just moved back a year and a half ago. Representative Benton was actually my representative when I lived here the first 40, well, he wasn't there the whole 40 years, but it's great to be here and appreciate the opportunity.
Thought you were going to say he taught you. He was your teacher.
Well, he did actually teach with my mother, who also was
there
a teacher in Jackson County. Well, we are happy to be here, and I thought what I would do is just very briefly, in case some of you are not familiar with who we are, I wanted to take a moment and just make sure that you knew who the Southern Regional Education Board is. We are actually an organization that has been around since 1948. We were created actually by the 16 governors and 16 legislatures of the Southern Regional Education Board. We run from Delaware down to Florida, over to Texas, back up through Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kentucky. And our job is to actually support you. We are an interstate compact, which is different than a membership organization. The metaphor I always use is when two states build a bridge over a body of water, they both enter an interstate compact. They will both maintain the bridge, and that's actually what SREB is. We're a metaphorical education bridge across the 16 states. Back in 1948, there was a commission that released a report that the South was the biggest economic liability in the country. The 16 governors and legislatures said, we don't feel we can do this alone. We need somebody to help bring us together and discuss the important issues. So we came together to help advance knowledge and improve the social and economic level of the Southern region, created in 1948. And we provide support and services from pre-K through doctoral degree. So as I like to say, we work pre-K to gray. That's gray, G-R-A-Y, not grave. We don't go quite that far. But we do work across the spectrum. The things that you'll hear me talk about most are systemic approaches to education. We are entering a very important decade, I believe, in what we will see going forward with how automation and artificial intelligence is going to impact our economy. And as a result, we're going to have to really rethink how we approach education throughout the whole spectrum. The way we do our work is we analyze and publish information. We bring people together to talk about the research and the data, and then we work with states to support action. So with that being our model, just to be very clear and upfront, we do not author model legislation. We do not comment for or against any legislation in any state. Our job is to provide you with data, with research, and once something is passed, to support you in that action. We do not in any way take a position on any type of bill or potential legislation in states. So with that, part of why we were asked to come today was to give a little bit of perspective of where state assessments have come from, where they are, and maybe what the intent is. I know that there's legislation that is actually in the hopper. I want to be clear that I will not be commenting on any of those things. My job was to come and just give you a little bit of background of where things were. Now, I want to start with, it actually is important to go back a ways, because we can very easily get into a place where we think about things in the here and now. But it's important to actually think about where state assessment first came from. It actually began as a state initiative really in response to business and industry years ago. And when I say years ago, I mean in the 80s and 90s. I remember having to take the basic skills test to graduate high school in 1986. I remember once I became a teacher, we had the high school graduation test. Kentucky and North Carolina really led the way in developing statewide assessments for accountability. In Kentucky, I'm the former state superintendent in Kentucky, and so I learned a lot about Kentucky history. And one of the things that we learned was, besides the fact a big lawsuit caused there to be a big uproar in the education system there, it was really driven by business and industry to push education to set high goals and to be very clear about what kids are actually learning when they graduate high school. And so state assessment began long before accountability, or at least in the way we know it today. It became really as a response to business and industry. Now, state assessments, I want to be clear about what they're intended to do. They determine knowledge at determined points in time, and they are meant to determine if students are having equitable opportunities to learn. So it really was about ensuring that they had certain knowledge by certain points, but also that each student had had the same opportunity to have learned. It was actually an equity aspect. So the thing is, in the early 2000s, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which was first signed by Lyndon B. Johnson back in 1964 as part of the War on Poverty, was reauthorized and signed into law by George W. Bush. And it was recast as the No Child Left Behind Act. At that point, a lot of this conversation was states are already giving state tests. At that time, if memory serves, there was really only one state not giving a statewide reading and math test. Ironically, that was Iowa, who created the Iowa test of basic skills. And so at the time, the idea was, well, if they're already giving the tests, let's use those tests to determine accountability. Now, I want to go through a couple of terms, just because here's one thing and I know all of you learn this about, is the more you work with education. Everybody has their own lingo. In fact, in education, I'm pretty sure you could carry on an entire conversation without ever saying a word and only saying letters. I'm really cognizant of that. But in assessment, it can be particularly a challenge because there are words that mean different things to different people. So for the sake of my conversation today, I want to just kind of define a few things. First of all, if I say grade band, that means a span of grades within there are kind of natural benchmarks. So typically we think of kindergarten through second grade as primary school, 3-5 is elementary, 6-8 is middle school, 9-12 is high school. A generic term for that is grade band. Screening assessment may very well come up. One of the things I was asked to do was kind of differentiate between different types of assessment. In Georgia, you passed a dyslexia bill last year that included screening for dyslexia. A screening assessment is really meant to identify at-risk students. Then there are additional things that have to go into diagnosing what those issues are. Formative assessment, there's a world of things that can be used synonymously here. Some people will say interim assessment, some people say, well, all kinds of things. For the sake of what we're going to talk about, though, formative assessment is for or during learning. It can be what we all traditionally had as a quiz. it can be a report, it can be a lot of different aspects. And it's typically driven at the school or district level. Oftentimes we see people get sort of confused about how the testing at the school or district level might actually be considered part of high stakes testing, when really it's oftentimes designed to try to help diagnose how we can help students further, or to predict how they might perform on the state assessment. Now, summative assessment has a wide range of possibilities of what it could mean. Basically, I think of them in terms of two categories. End of unit or end of course. End of unit can be that chapter test that teachers give. It's summative for that unit. It can be an end of course, which of course we've had in Georgia for a very long time. The other category is large-scale state assessment. In large-scale state assessment, that is an assessment developed at the state level that's then administered in Georgia. We refer to those as the milestones. I will tell you this, that when it comes to state assessment, I do believe that we've gotten to a place where we have forgotten what the intent behind state assessment is. State assessment, I'm just going to be really blunt here. State assessment is an autopsy. It is a postmortem. It is something that happens at the end of the year to say, what did kids learn during this year or during this grade band? That was the original design of them. That was the original intent. The instruction that they actually impact should be instruction of those students as they move to the next grade, and as a self-reflection of teachers of how they might want to change their instruction for their current students. But they are not necessarily designed to change instruction at that point, because at that point you've only got a few weeks left of school. Very briefly, just want to remind you that as you guys consider anything around state assessment, I want to really encourage you to think about the big picture. You can think a lot about pieces of education. And in thinking about pieces of education and not thinking about the whole system, often what happens is that actually leads to things you have to go back and clean up later. And we've seen this in some of our southern states where there's been an action taken by a legislature about assessment or about accountability. And of course, then that has to be approved by the federal Department of Education, and sometimes they have to come back and fix that later. So I always tell people, think about what's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the big picture of what you want to do? There's a great opportunity with the Every Student Succeeds Act and with Perkins and WIOA. Perkins is actually the federal law that governs career and technical education and that funding, and the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. The same language exists in all three of those federal laws. I don't know that I've ever seen that happen at the federal level, but it actually has, which means that states have the opportunity to set a big picture agenda as to what they want their economy and their workforce to look like over the next decade. So a few things. One of the things that the Every Student Succeeds Act did, which was signed into law by Barack Obama in 2015, is it actually put accountability back with the states. States have to have 4 academic indicators that include proficiency on state tests, progress toward English language proficiency for English language learners. In other words, students who English is not their first language. There had to be a student growth or other academic indicator in both elementary and middle schools, and and high school graduation rate had to be an indicator. Additionally, there was a measure of school quality that's not necessarily pertinent to this exactly, but it's under the context of the Every Student Succeeds Act. So there had to be a measure of school quality in student success, such as engagement, teacher engagement. For your CCRPI, that's actually a factor that's included already. And when it comes to assessment, the federal law does say that it must include 95% overall and what they call subgroup population. Subgroup is actually the full population of students broken down into different demographic areas. Individual student groups must be reported on, in particular around their performance, and gap, meaning how they perform against one another. Weighting is determined by states, but academic factors have to be, quote unquote, much more. There was always debate about what that meant. And that's where you can get into some really good discussions. I can tell you about those at another time if you'd like, at least some that I was a part of. You are supposed to set ambitious long-term goals with measurement for progress. And each year, states must meaningfully differentiate schools and identify student populations based on performance on indicators. Of course, as you know, Georgia is also part of the Innovative Assessment Pilot, which is also providing new opportunities for how students could be assessed. Maintain requirements for report cards. So how's it look in the states? In K-8, across the Southern Regional Education Board, all states assess ELA/English Language Arts or reading in grades 3 through 8. They all assess mathematics in grades 3 through 8. Only Florida and Kentucky assess writing. They assess writing once per grade band. In science, all states must assess science once per grade band. In other words, once in 3.5 and once in 6.8. And in 2 states, actually Arkansas and Louisiana, assess every year grades 3 through 8. You'll probably remember Georgia used to do that as well. In social studies, 4 states, Delaware, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, assess once per grade band. In Louisiana, they assess every year grades 3 through 8. As far as high school assessments go, English Language Arts, again, every state assesses ELA at least once in high school. 9 states assess ELA twice in high school, for the most part through end-of-course exams. In math, all states have to assess math at least once in high school. 10 states assess math at least twice in high school, most commonly Algebra 1 and Geometry. In Tennessee and Texas, they actually assess 3 times in high school. Writing, we have 7 states that assess in high school. Many of those actually assess that through the use of ACT or SAT. In science, 14 states assess science once in high school. The other 2 states, Georgia and Virginia, assess science at least twice in high school, again through end-of-course tests. Virginia actually has 3 end-of-course tests in science. In social studies, 13 states assess social studies at least once in high school. 5 states, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, assess social studies at least twice in high school. One just interesting side note, well, actually I'm going to hold off on that till I get to Georgia, which I am here. I know you all know this, but I thought it would just be important to just put it in context. You currently assess grades 3 through 8 in English, math. You currently do not have a writing assessment in 3.8. In science, you assess in grades 5 and 8, which is kind of typical. There are some states in Kentucky, when I was there, we actually assessed science in grade 4 and 7 and put social studies in 5 and 8 to try to limit the load of students there. In social studies, you assess grades 5 and 8. In high school, in ELA, you have assessment in 9th grade English, American literature, and composition. In math, you test Algebra 1 or coordinate algebra, geometry or analytic geometry. There's currently no writing exam. In science, you assess physical science and biology. And in social studies, U.S. history and economics, business, free enterprise. One side note to that I would just articulate is one of the things we have seen an uptick on is more emphasis on financial literacy, especially at the high school level. Georgia is the only state that actually has any assessment related to financial literacy, and that would be your economics EOC. Now, we did get a question. One of the things I was asked to talk about was assessment comparability, because there is apparently in your current legislation where states where there are some items that are supposed to be comparable to other states. Now, I'm just going to be blunt with you and tell you I don't really know how that works. We had that in Kentucky, and I actually asked our legislature to take it out because the only way that really works is if every student is taking a similar battery and the states are actually coming together to compare them. So really, if you really want to be comparable, the only possibilities for comparability would be a college admissions exam. And frankly, that's really only possible if you have most of your students taking it. I know that when I was here as a teacher and when I was here at the Georgia Department of Education, every time the SAT came out, everybody wanted to go and look at the rankings. Well, it's sort of hard to compare Georgia in the rankings of SAT when, yeah, most of our kids took it, and then you'd have other states where a third of their kids took it, and what do you know? Those kids, they all had honors classes and were all going to college anyway. So we do have some states in the South that we're able to have some comparability, but it's because actually those tests are required by every student. The other option for comparability is the National Assessment for Education Progress. That is the only federally required assessment. Every state is required to participate, but that is also has some interesting quirks with it. NAEP is done based on a sampling of students in grades 4, grade 8, and grade 12. I'm sure you can think about, especially in grade 12, how fun it is to convince an 18-year-old who's about to graduate to take a test that's not going to count against them in any way, shape, or form, and wonder about how well they take that into account. But even at grades 4 and 8, there are a lot of things to look at here. For instance, exclusion rate. States do have the ability to exclude students. That was something that when I was a state superintendent, I always asked, what's our exclusion rate? And we always were trying to drive that down because there are ways you can actually exclude students from that, which could potentially question, how well your state did. So with that, I'm going to stop. I threw a lot of information out, but I'm happy to take questions. I just, before I completely go, I would like to say, again, we exist to support you. We exist to support the governor, the state superintendent, the chancellor. So if there's ever anything that you need from us with regard to research or what other states are doing, we stand ready to help. I have two of my staff with me here today. Lee Posey is our VP for state strategies, and she is usually the first line of contact. Camilla Mooney is also with us, and she works with Lee in our state strategies office. So with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, got a few. We'll start off 16. I believe that's Representative Stovall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. The question I have, and it's something you can probably just send information back on, but I know many of our school districts, some of them are moving toward competency-based or personalized learning. And I know one of the challenges is how do you really assess that and stay in compliance with the federal regulations when it comes down to assessment. So I was just interested in some of the other states that are doing it and then how the challenge, and then even one of some recommendations for Georgia. I know we just did some changes with our assessment and got some approvals, but I think that that's kind of the way that we should be moving and making sure we're student-centered and not just kind of what the adults want to do.
I think it's a great question, and we'll be happy to send you some information on what the other states are doing. Georgia, as I mentioned earlier, is part of the innovation pilot, and they currently have 2 different assessments that they're working on throughout the state. The way I understand the innovation pilot is eventually they'll have to choose one. I think kudos to them for doing that and for pushing it forward. In Kentucky, we actually were not part of the pilot, but we were starting that, and I think the way we were trying to account for it, and I think this is the way this is happening in Georgia, so Matt, if I say this the wrong way, I apologize. But one of the concerns you'll hear from various superintendents is going to be, how can I make sure that what's going on in that district is the same level of rigor as what my kids are doing? And I know in Kentucky, and I believe here, part of that is going to be having the local-based test, and how does that correlate to how students perform on the state level tests. But we can get some more information for you and about what's going on all over the South on that.
And more specifically, Mr. Chair, I just want to say about the personalized learning and the competency-based. I think that that's what we need to be moving more fastly towards.
I agree, and I think that I would love to see a world where eventually we'd let students take assessments in things that interest them, but yet still show us they are able to do their math, reading, science as much as possible. Those are the federally required ones.
23, is that taught? Representative Jones.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm well.
First of all, Representative Stovall, great question. So I'm going to add on to yours if that's okay. The last ed tech report that I looked at was for the 2019, and it was a lot of zeros behind that number in terms of billions invested in ed tech. So we're seeing a lot moving in, and I saw actually a surprising amount in assessments. So the question that I guess I'd like to add, Representative Stovall, to your request, when you send that information over, if you could possibly give us some thoughts around best practices and what other states are doing around continuous assessments and micro assessments, because the idea of, one state of mind in 3rd grade and one state of mind in 8th grade probably isn't capturing the whole student the way that we'd like. So if I could just add to Representative Stovall's request, I sure would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Happy to do it.
Go. 12, Representative Romero Lopez.
Thank you for your presentation. I just was hoping that you would share with the rest of the committee. I was at the media symposium that was held in conjunction with Partnership for Education Excellence, I believe that's the name. But the short summary of a report that you guys created, I'm going to paraphrase now, basically was that by 2030, Georgia stands to be undereducated and unemployed or underemployed if we're not actually proactively doing something to develop greater education equity and workforce development being a top priority. So if you could share that report with the rest of the committee members, I think that'd be really important.
Very happy to. We released a report called Unprepared and Unaware last year. And what we did was we did a study of current working adults ages 25 to 35. And what we found was those individuals, right now they're doing great. They're employed, they're owning their own homes, they're going on vacation, but they all have high school diplomas and GEDs. And as automation and artificial intelligence continue to roll in, we're going to see where those individuals in their current skill set will become unemployable. Now, I want to be clear. That word is important. Not that they'll be unemployed, they would be unemployable. They will not have the skills to participate in a workforce that would require the technological skills. So the thing is, we also looked at the ages of their students. Their children are going to be graduating by 2030, about the same time mom and dad are losing their jobs. Those students in that line are 10 times more likely to go into the same line of work as their parents. So potentially you're looking at multi-generational unemployment. We followed that up with an economic impact study. And we are predicting that if we were to stay on the current course and do nothing, that we actually will see 18 million unemployable adults in the southern region by 2030, which is a horrifying number. In fact, in Georgia, I'm drawing a blank, Lee. Do you have it with you? How much? I thought it was 1.5. We're predicting 1.5 million unemployable adults in Georgia. That's why I brought up earlier the ESSA, Perkins, and WIOA alignment. That's actually a great first step. But one of the things to do and one of the things we're really hoping that states will come together and think about is what is the vision for workforce in the next 10 years and articulate that and then make plans toward that. Because here's the deal. You can try to fix K-12, but that's only part of the problem. But we actually have an issue that goes all the way through adult education. And actually approaching this from a systemic standpoint is going to be critical. Otherwise, well, let me put it this way. By 2030, for the first time in the U.S., we will have more individuals that are age dependent, that means below 18 and above 65, than we have working age individuals. 53 age dependent individuals for every 47 working. It means the stress that's going to put on our social programs and other things is going to be tremendous. So that's, in short, that's that. I'm happy to come back at some point if you want more detail, but that's the short story.
In short. No.
It's
as
short as I could make it.
And then we're going to move on to Speaker Pro Tem. We got to get that one done. See, number 18, that Ms. Evans, Ms. Carter.
Sorry, I thought you were excusing me.
No.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you for the information that you brought us. Two things. One, a part of our ESSA plan, Georgia has established that children will be reading on grade level by 3rd grade. Are you seeing that the current assessments that the results that we're seeing, are we seeing an improvement on students reading on grade level at their early age?
So I don't have that information in front of me, but in general, I would say Georgia has had a pretty good history of moving forward and having progress there. Back actually when I was at the Department of Ed, we had a huge Reading First grant and saw tremendous improvement, and we've continued to see improvement since then. One of the things I think that has been tremendous is the commitment that Georgia has had over the years to reading, and not just to pass-fail on the third grade test, but the wraparound services that go along with it. As you probably know, Mississippi actually led the country in fourth grade NAEP this year. And the reason that happened was because of a long-term commitment. They constantly reevaluated whether what they were doing was working or not. And they had tremendous wraparound services and training for their teachers.
And my brief second question was about Georgia not having writing assessments. Is there any particular reason why Georgia doesn't? And I ask that because we know that when our students go off to college, writing is important.
So I can't actually answer that question. That would be a question more for the department. My guess is, because I know in Kentucky, one of the reasons we had to do it was budget cuts. Because to grade a writing assessment is expensive. Because it's not the Scantron that you can pop through. You actually have to hire people to come in and do the reading. Right. So I don't know that, but that would be a question for the department.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Representative Paris, I believe.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sir, for being here today. I think really something that, and this isn't necessarily on the assessments and the material that you provided, but I think that in order for us to fully understand our communities, we really do have to have diversity. Now, on the front of the paper that you've given us, it says it's a nonpartisan interstate compact formed among legislators and governors in 1948, and when you look on the back, all I see is GOP. I think that's something that we cannot overlook. Communities of color need their voice at the table in order to fully understand what is going on in those areas. So that would be my only recommendation to you. But I appreciate your work.
Thank you. And let me just be really clear about how our governance works. The way our governance works is we don't actually choose who's on our board. That is actually a gubernatorial appointment.
Somebody's choosing, so I would just say take the message back to whoever is choosing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just wanted to be clear.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stephen. We sure appreciate your time and bringing us up to date and educating, get us all on the same page on a very important subject. We sure appreciate you. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
Okay, back to Speaker Pro Tem. Okay, so I'm going to call on Legislative Counsel to read what he has determined as the appropriate language to accomplish the goal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend striking the existing language on line 45 and replacing in lieu thereof the following. Prevent access to any record which is the
Hang on a second. Let's get everybody on the same page. I can hear people rustling. Okay, go to line where?
145.
Okay. Just say the question, I'm sure. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
At the end of the current language, I would recommend adding, and provided further, that such contract expressly provides that the third party shall comply with applicable federal, state, and local law relating to the confidentiality or privacy of the records that are the subject of such contract.
Did we hear that? I need a motion to accept the amendment. A second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, with that amendment's added as described. Okay, we'll look at the whole bill. Need a motion? Good motion. Second. Okay. Got any discussion on this bill? I think we've done good. Okay, all those in favor of this bill, let's vote aye. Are those opposed? No. Okay, we have a no? Okay, got that. Noted. Okay, Madam Speaker Pro Tem, thank you very much. Measure passes. Okay, next, Vice Chairman Chokus is fixing to take over. I've got to run to a meeting, very important one for me, just right quick. So I'll be kind to him.
Please,
I'll be right.
please be kind. I had lunch at the varsity. Thank you. I think next up is Representative Wiedauer with House Bill 855.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee I bring to you today, we actually have a committee substitute. Want to make sure we're looking at the right LC.
Okay.
We have LC 490158S. I'll wait for everybody to. All right. In general overview of the bill, what we're trying to accomplish here is the fact that we acknowledge that foster care children often need services that, due to quick placement into a school, possibly moving on to another school, they never get to the point of receiving services such as an IEP. So what this is doing, it is directing the school board education, to immediately assess these students upon entering in foster care. It does not change any of the assessment criteria. They still have to qualify like any other student for these services. But what it does is it directs them to initiate these assessments immediately. Biggest reason for that, again, I kind of go back to that example. Say a student gets placed, they're at a school for 2 or 3 months. We know they've gone through a situation that they're going to need help. They're going to need services, very likely. They have a much higher likelihood of needing these services. And they may be at a school for 3 months and then get placed with another foster family. They go to a new school and could be at that school for another 3 or 4 months prior to these assessments occurring and moving through the process. So again, in the Section A, the first lines 15 through 23, that's just saying that we find that foster care students are particularly vulnerable to these situations. Moving on, it defines foster care students, and then directs in Section B, line 30, that no later than January 1 of 2021, the State Board of Education shall adopt rules and regulations protocol necessary to assess these students. Board of Education, they're good with this bill. Again, they just wanted me to clarify that this does not change any of the criteria for these students to receive the services. It just initiates the assessment immediately for foster care students. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. You have some. All right. Number 16, Ms. Valencia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the legislation. I guess the question I have is, I understand the concern about our foster care kids, but at the same time, there are so many of our regular students that are in the schools that are not assessed, and they can go almost a whole year and not be assessed. And I don't know, the way around. I understand about moving ahead the foster care kids, because they have gone through a lot of traumatic things, but then we also have kids that have gone through traumatic things that are not foster kids, but they're having to sit and wait in the system. So it wasn't really a question. It was just a comment that I just wish that all of them could be fast-tracked, with that, because we start talking about kids not reading on level. It's because a lot of times they're not getting the assessments, and then by the time the end of the school year comes up, they have to start back over when the new school year starts, so they're still behind each and every year. But thank you for bringing this bill.
Thank you, and I agree completely with your sentiments, and certainly would entertain working with you on finding a way to help that situation out. We need to obviously help all these kids in these situations. Obviously, with the potential of moving around schools quicker was the impetus for this bill. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, do you understand all the federal requirements that are foster parents allowed to ask for an IEP to be done on their on these children?
The foster care parents are not. I mean, in fact, the parent actually has to agree for the assessment. So that's part of this. Is it takes time, to get a child gets put in foster care, and their biological parent has to agree to some of these assessments. So part of that is it takes time to get that going, and we're just wanting that to be initiated immediately because in these situations it's harder to get that kind of approval.
You know, follow up, sir?
Yes.
Just one. So, what if the child has gone to one school, two schools, three schools, four schools? Would all four schools have to done this, or the children go to different schools often?
The intent is that this process would begin, and once some of that information is in the system, for instance, if they get to the point that they actually have an IEP, obviously that follows the student from school to school. So the intent is here to initiate it immediately. Again, part of this too, and one of the reasons they need to direct the criteria of how to assess is, some of these kids in these situations, when they get into one-on-one assessments, they perform much better than they might be doing in school because they're in need of that attention in a different way than some other kids are. So that's part of the assessment. But again, once that process begins, we'd like to. The hope is that they get these services as soon as they need them.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there are no further questions. What's the will of the committee? There's a motion and a second. Cool. All right, at this time, all those in favor of making this due pass for LC 490158S, committee substitute to House Bill 855. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Representative.
Thank you.
Super. Good. All right. Now, the next one. Yes, sir.
I did fail to mention, as soon as I stood up and saw her, I wanted to commend Representative Nguyen. She's given me a lot of good feedback on that bill and made it a lot better. So thank you.
Thank you. Cool. Very good. Good. Next up is Representative Dave Belton with House Bill 755.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, the full committee. I'm working off a substitute that came today, actually. So it's Lima Charlie 490180S on House Bill 755. 755, I don't know if y'all remember this, but a couple years ago, this committee kindly did a fiscal transparency bill for me that is one of the best in the nation, actually. Only two states do fiscal transparency as well as Georgia does, Georgia and Texas. So what we're trying to do is enhance that program, promotes fiscal transparency between local school districts and their local charter schools by requiring these school districts to publish on the website annually the allotment sheet itemizing state, local, and federal funds that are being given to these charter schools. This bill is not punitive because the local districts already have this information. We're just asking it to be shared to the local charter schools. It doesn't cost any money. The bill is intended to promote positive relations. As you know, lack of transparency sometimes promotes conspiracy theories that are often unfounded. So we just want to make sure better communication between the local schools and the local school charter schools. It promotes increased understanding when everyone knows how much money is going where. Also, charter schools, unlike traditional schools, have to have a charter contract that includes fiscal accountability metrics every year. So a balanced operating budget is sometimes impeded if they don't know exactly what's coming to them. Much of the data is already publicly available, but oftentimes the public is not able to match numbers because they come from different sources. So we're basically asking everyone to sing off the same hymnal, a verifiable source. So the bill itself is, I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, but basically in the meat of it is on lines 21 through 25. The local charter schools gives a preliminary annual allotment 45 days after they've received it from the Department of Education. That's important because they'll actually pass the budget till July 1st. And then on line 26, the local Board of Education will publish on a prominent location, including its websites, the distribution of those funds by the 1st of October. So the 1st of October is usually budgets review is done in September. So the 1st of October they'd have time to figure that out by then. I was also asked by the Chairman Jaspers on Section 2 to add this other request. This is talking about school choice transfers within a same system from one school to the other. It's just adding this, again, a transparency measure that the criteria, the deadlines criteria to get into this other school, usually because of seat availability, is also published on the website. And I ask for questions.
Cool. Well, you do. You got one. Number 16.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Belton, for this bill. I just wanted to share the importance of having those allotment sheets for our especially locally authorized charter schools, because it tells the compensation for non-student services like school nursing, nutrition, state health benefit contributions in other areas. And the local charter school in my district, Seven Pillars, as of February the 27th, they had not received their allotment sheet. And without those true numbers, the school does not have any idea what the FTE that they are entitled to receive. And what their allotment sheet does is let them know exactly how much money they're supposed to receive so they can budget properly. So their budget has been based on an arbitrary number that's a basic QBE number. And they have students that are about 20% population is developmental disability, and about 50% they have been identified for remediation. But because their allotment sheet has not been completed, they cannot get the full funding that they're supposed to receive. So those students are not getting all the services they're supposed to receive like in your traditional setting. And now we're into February, almost heading into May, that those children are not. So that allotment sheet is very, very important for locally approved charter school. And one other thing I want to add, Mr. Chair, and I'll be finished, is that in the beginning, the school told parents that the school's going to have smaller classrooms. Well, they can't budget for smaller classrooms because they don't know what that number looks like. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
And I want to thank Representative Stovall. She's helped me with this bill quite a bit, and she's been a real champion for charter schools. Thank you.
Well, I agree with you. I appreciate Representative Stovall. She's the vice chair of our subcommittee, and thank you for your service. Oh, I guess everybody heard that. Cool. All right, there are no more questions. What's the pleasure of the committee? There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor of passing Lima Charlie 490180 Sigma, Sierra. Please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Your
Thank you,
bill
committee.
passed. Thank you. All right. Is there any? Oh, excuse me. We're not adjourned yet. Dave, sit down. We're not adjourned yet. We have an announcement to make. Sit down.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to remind y'all really quick, if you haven't signed up for Remind 101 yet, if you could please do that, because I saw some names, which is great. But it is the main form of communication for the committee. If you're having any trouble with it, please come by 218 and I'll help you out. If you hand me your phone in 218, I can do that for you. Yep.
All right. Being no further business, we're adjourned. Thank you. Boom.